So the question is, do you believe that police brutality disproportionately affects black people?
Of course.
I hated police officers. I had heard the stories of Eric Garner, of Tamir Rice, of Michael Brown. I watched Philando Castile get shot and killed by a police officer while sitting in his car with his girlfriend and his 4-year-old daughter. And it was sold to me as racism. It was sold to me by social media, by mainstream media, by my own mother. I joined the Black Lives Matter movement. I started organizing. In fact, I got paid to do it. Now, here's where things get complicated. I did find that black people are killed at a higher rate than Hispanics, whites, and other races. The numbers look a bit like this now. And I thought, boom, got him. The police are systemically racist because black people make up 13% of the population. The shootings are clearly disproportionate. What I failed to take into account in this argument is the rate of criminality in the black community. And this is a hard discussion to have because sometimes facts can offend people. The more crimes committed, the more encounters with police. And when we look into the 2019 FBI crime table, we find that black people constitute 26.6% of all crime arrests. This would go up to 27.1% in 2020. In breaking this down further, I found that includes 51.2% of murders and manslaughters, 26.7% of rapes, 52.7% of robberies, 33.2% of aggravated assaults, and 28.8% of burglaries. The situation gets even more grim when we consider that the majority of these crimes are committed by young black males who constitute roughly 2.8% of the population.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Could you elaborate on that just a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I don't watch the news too much, but it does seem that there could be some police brutality towards African Americans.
Hey, appreciate it, bro. That's a great answer, yeah.
So then I thought, okay, whatever, that's just arrests. What if some of those are wrongful? It happens all the time, especially to black people because the system is racist. Well, let's assume that 50% of those arrests are wrongful and we swipe those underneath the rug. The crime rate would still be disproportionate to the size of the black population.
Although blacks were only about 15% of the population in the 75 largest counties in the U.S., they were charged with 62% of all robberies, 57% of murders, and 45% of assaults. In New York City, blacks commit over 3/4 of all shootings, though they are only 23% of the city's population.
And I'll say it again, the more crimes committed, the more encounters with police. Now, if you go and read into these encounters, which I did, you'll find that most black people fatally shot by police officers are armed, and those who aren't are often shot while evading arrest or posing some other threat to the officer. Now, I found that if police officers were truly targeting black people, the rates of fatal shooting would look a lot more like the crime rates in black communities, and they don't at all. In fact, I even stumbled on a study out of Washington State University that showed that officers were far more hesitant to shoot black suspects than white suspects. And when they did shoot black suspects, they took longer and they made fewer mistakes.
Harvard economics professor Roland Fryer analyzed more than 1,000 officer-involved shootings across the country. He concluded that there is zero evidence of racial bias in police shootings. In Houston, he found that blacks were 24% less likely than whites to be shot by officers, even though the suspects were armed or violent. Does the truth matter?
The worst part for younger me was not finding that what I was saying was untrue. The worst part was actually finding that what I was saying was harmful to the communities that I thought that I was protecting.
Oh, I feel like, especially in the media, we are seeing a problem with police brutality, especially in black communities.
They're the ones who need the police most.
The proactive policing revolution that began in the mid-1990s has dramatically brought down the inner city murder rate and saved tens of thousands of black lives. Unfortunately, that crime decline is now in jeopardy. As I write in my book, The War on Cops, police officers are backing off of proactive policing in black neighborhoods thanks to the false narrative that police officers are infected with homicidal bias. As a result, violent crime is going up.
Let's look at LA, for example. Just miles away from where I live is Southeast LA. There lies Watts, one of the most dangerous areas you can live in California. I work personally with police officers who are stationed in these areas. I've seen the devastating effects of having under-resourced law enforcement. I've seen horrible acts of violence committed to the young people who live in these neighborhoods.
In Chicago, through just the first 6.5 months of 2016, over 2,300 people were shot. That's a shooting an hour during some weekends. The vast majority of the victims were black. During the same period, the Chicago police shot 12 people, all armed and dangerous. That's 0.5% of all shootings.
I've seen children who can't play in their front yards without police present, mothers who pour bleach on their front doorsteps so that gang members don't hang out outside their yards, people who would rather call in sick to work than ask a gang member to move their car out of their lot. These are the realities for these communities, these low-income communities of colors that we claim to be helping when we push this narrative. And if we continue to call for defunding the police and actually see it through, these communities will be overrun with crime and there will be no one there to respond to it. Look at Minneapolis, look at San Francisco, two cities who led with the charge of defunding the police, but could not handle the spike in crime that came with it. Now both of them are rolling back and stopping with the defund rhetoric. I wonder why. And you'll find that most of the people who shout the defund the police narrative will never feel the true weight and the true reality of the situation once it actually happens.
From what I've seen and read, it seems that way for sure. I don't know like a ton about it, but it seems that way.
That's awesome. That's a great answer. Thank you.
Don't get me wrong, the outrage around police brutality in some of these videos is so understandable. I felt it, I saw it for myself, and I thought there was nothing better to do than to go out and protest. But before you start making signs and screaming no justice, no peace like I had done in the past, you have to think about whether or not what you're saying is actually true.
I feel like it does, but I also have never looked at the numbers online, but I do feel like there's just a lot that you see on social media and whatnot, and yeah.
If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and hit the subscribe button. Also, if you want more content, including the podcast, go to thoughtful-faith.com. Thanks for watching.